As a man, I pledge to celebrate and respect all women in my life.
Respect for women is incompatible with buying sex from them.
I reject the idea that a person can be sold,
traded, or bought
for my personal sexual gratification.
I believe that it is impossible to respect the person I have paid for.
Buying sex is buying people. People cannot be owned.
I pledge to promote the empowerment of women and choose to support and extend full dignity to all persons.
I pledge my support for the introduction of the Nordic model in Australia,
which acknowledges on a gender equality and human rights platform
that the exchange of money for sex is violence against women.
My name is Dr. Michael Flood. I'm a researcher, an advocate, and an educator. And I want to talk to you today about men and prostitution. Most men in Australia say that they respect women. Most men in Australia say that they support women having the same rights and responsibilities as men. But you can't respect women and pay for sex with them. Paying a woman to have sex with you is fundamentally incompatible with gender equality. It's incompatible with the principles of respect, justice, and equality. I don't assume that every man who pays for sex with a woman treats her with cruelty or hostility. I don't assume that most commercial sexual interactions involve violence or coercion. But it's also clear that for many men, using prostitutes is shaped by hostile attitudes towards women, a sense of entitlement, and a callous lack of care about women's well-being. I don't assume that every woman or man who sells sex is deeply victimised or oppressed. But it's also clear that violence and abuse are common in the sex industry, and that prostitution is shaped very much by wider inequalities. Prostitution as an industry is about privilege. The privilege to buy access to the bodies of socially devalued groups, mostly women, but also transgender people, gay men, and so on. In prostitution, other people's bodies become commodities. Others' bodies become objects for men's consumption. Prostitution is built on inequality. Prostitution reflects gender inequalities and it maintains those inequalities. The sex industry is built on men's entitlement to women's sexualised bodies and on women's more limited options for economic independence. Prostitution is built on various inequalities of gender, race, class, sexuality, and so on. For men, the fundamental point should be buying sex is not a right. We should not have the right to buy access to other people's bodies. And buying sex is not a need, some kind of hardwired biological imperative that all men have. Instead, buying sex is a choice. Men make choices about paying for sex, and of course those choices are shaped by wider cultural norms about what is acceptable or unacceptable. So we have to address demand, the demand for prostitution. We need laws and policies which criminalise demand and discourage the buying of sex. And beyond this, we need culture change to shift the norms of sexism and male sexual entitlement, which are at the root of prostitution. And as part of this, we need new positive visions of male sexuality. We have to challenge traditional constructions of male sexuality based on dominance, disconnection, and entitlement, and build new positive forms of male sexuality based on respect, on consent, on pleasure, and so on. Individual men have a key role to play. First, put your own house in order. Don't pay for sexual services. Don't have sex with sex workers, or visit strip clubs, or give your money in other ways to the sex industry. Learn about the harms of prostitution and pornography. Support feminist efforts to challenge the violence and sexism in prostitution. Pledge your support for the Nordic model, which challenges the demand for commercial sex. And above all, make a personal commitment. Make a personal commitment never to use or support any form of sexual exploitation and to speak out against sexism, violence, and abuse. Thank you.